Alright, in my last video I introduced my OptiShot, a device I use to practice in the winter time, get me some exercise, and I also use it in the summertime down here in southern Indiana. When it gets really hot in the summertime, you don't feel like going out and golfing. So probably the first thing people might ask is, hey, is that OptiShot any good for my driver? Can I learn anything or improve anything about my driving by using the OptiShot? Well, like I've said before, it's not the TrackMan, but there are certain things that the OptiShot does really well. It measures club head speed really well. It measures face openness and closedness really well. It also measures center hits, heel hits, and toe hits really well. And it also gives you feedback about the path of your swing, whether it was outside in, on center, or inside out. So if you've got a really big swing flaw and you want to know what it is, maybe the OptiShot is one way for you to detect it and then go ahead and learn how to remove it. With me, the first time I got on the OptiShot, I realized that I was hitting the ball with an open face a lot more than I realized, and I went ahead and I did things about that, and it really did improve my driving. For my son, he was young at the time, maybe 6 years old when we bought it, and over the 5 years of using it, he gained a lot of club head speed, just swinging the club in the house over the OptiShot. When it's in the house, of course, we don't use balls, we just swing in the air, but you can hit balls off the OptiShot. So let me get into the driving of using the OptiShot for driving. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the quirks about golf clubs and the OptiShot, problems and how to avoid those problems. And then I'll go ahead and I'll hit some shots on the Opti, and you can see what it does. The golf clubs that we use for playing the Opti are usually just typical golf clubs. And the Opti suffers with golf clubs that have a very rounded bottom, like my Ping G5 here, for example. You can see the bottom is very rounded. It's nice and reflective, good for sending the light back down to the Opti when the club passes over. So here's the Opti pad. It's got its back row of sensors and its front row of sensors. So as this golf club is coming over the sensors, it's got to tell the difference between that leading edge of the club and all of that reflected area on the back of the club. So it makes it very difficult for the Opti to determine the club face angle. Another club that suffers with the same problem are wedges. Okay, the wedge has almost a good straight leading edge, a little rounded. However, it's got a lot of back flange area that, when you turn it all upside down, also happens to be very reflective. So when the Opti is coming over a set of sensors, okay, if it picks up the leading edge and it stops looking at stuff, okay, but it probably doesn't, and it's maybe still looking at the back of the flange, and that confuses the Opti and gives you bad data. So what I've done to work around these two problems is I take the bottom of my Opti golf club and I cover it with masking tape, and then except for an area where I've put on some of that reflective stuff you might put on your mailbox to see it in the nighttime, a reflector strip here, the white, it's all black on the bottom. So when the Opti reflects light from the club, it's only going to reflect from the white strip and not from the blacked out area. So what the OptiShot sees with my driver is that strip coming over the set of sensors. And that strip does a really good job at helping the OptiShot determine whether the club face is open or closed. I do a similar thing with my wedges. I cover the back of them with masking tape. I use a marking pen and I black that all out. And then I keep the leading edge as it is, and then just that tape kind of forms a straight line. And this also helps the OptiShot greatly with wedges. Okay. Where the OptiShot doesn't have much of a problem is a straight face club. This is a nice Titleist 2 iron. I gussied it up with some reflective tape and put some blacking on it. But in its stock condition, it would actually work pretty good. So that's my 2 iron. And then my mid iron, my 6 iron, I just use it as the stock condition because you can see it's almost, you know, very knife-like. So when it comes across the sensors of the Opti, it sees the leading edge, and there's only a very small back flange area that if it does reflect light, it doesn't reflect it straight back down to the sensors and doesn't confuse the sensors. So it picks up this 6 iron really well. Then the last club in my bag of tricks is the old Wilson 8802 putter. And on this one, you can see I've got a really nice straight edge. It's flat. It's not very wide. It's rounded on the back. The profile's not very rounded on the bottom from toe to heel. So as this one goes over the sensors on the OptiShot, it picks up the leading edge really good, and then picks up the leading edge on the other set of sensors really good. So the OptiShot does a very good job of reading this particular putter. All right, if you didn't see my first video on the Opti, I'll quickly go through how the Opti works. The Opti has 2 rows of sensors. There's a back row of sensors and there's a front row of sensors. So as you swing the golf club, it goes over the back and the front set of sensors. When you take your club back from this center area and it hits the back sensor, it starts timing your backswing and then comes through and hits those sensors again, and then you get a tempo number. And then the speed your club is going between the back row of sensors and the front row of sensors is calculated by the OptiShot so that it can give you club head speed. Path, if you hit these top sensors back here and these front sensors here, that's a outside to in. This way, if you hit this row of sensors first and then this row of sensors, that's an inside out path. And then the last thing the Opti can tell you is where you're hitting the ball. If you hit it centered, you're coming right through both pair of sensors. But if you are low, like this, and you come through the sensors, it's going to say you toe hitted. And then the opposite, if you're up here and you come through, the Opti is going to tell you that you heel hit that shot. And the Opti is really good at that information. All right, just a bit about my environment when I'm doing the OptiShot. I've got the OptiShot pad. I got it down here on the floor in my small living room. And then over here is the TV where I see the results of my shots. My laptop's over here on the coffee table. The pad is connected to the laptop through a USB. The TV is connected through the laptop through a HMDI cable, HMID, whatever that acronym happens to be. So I've got the pad down here. I go ahead and put my club down there, get my driver ready. I go ahead and I hit a drive. So I'm going to take the camera, put it on the computer, and show you what the OptiShot shows me. All right, I got her all set up here. Let's go to the driving range. The OptiShot has a built-in driving range. Again, the OptiShot has been optimized for me, so it's kind of reflecting exactly what my golf is capable of producing. I typically get about a 200 to a 220 yard carry with the driver when I go at it. Okay, so the first thing is the club has been selected to the driver. You can choose your other clubs by using these arrows. You can change your launch trajectory if you want to make a special shot, but I'm just going to go with the stock normal trajectory. And then as far as statistics go, the OptiShot does a thing where there's some lines out there, and if you get it within 15 feet of center, it tracks those shots, calculates out percentages, so you'll see that information change as we go. And then so there's that, the 15-foot grid, the 30 wide, 45, and finally greater than 45 yards wide. And then we select which flag we're going to. And because it's in driver mode, it's selecting the furthest flag. Here's a flag. The distance to that one is 251. The blue flag, the distance is 231. The green flag, the distance 177. I think I'll settle with the blue flag, 250 something. All right, and then let's hit a few drives. And then we're going to see the results over here. The first number is the club head speed. The second number is the face angle of the club as it comes through. The path of the club. The distance I hit the shot, how much I have left to the pin if I'm playing the game, the tempo of my swing, and then where did I contact the ball on the face. All very important information, and if you've got your club dialed in like mine is with the blacking on it, the reflective tape, and like that, the results are very accurate, very good. So let's hit a few shots. I'm going to start out easy. It's kind of early in the morning. I'm just going to use my 150-yard shot, carry and roll out, and see what we get. All right, 180 roll, 180, 49 yards to the pin. 189 yards. And if I look at the information, 65 mile per hour, open 6.3. Okay, we could see that I went to the right. Said my swing was on plane, so it came through nice and good. 186 yards on the hit, tempo 1.2, and it was a toe contact. That's kind of me. I'm a toe hitter. All right, so let me see if I can't do something about that open face and that toe hit. Same kind of swing, 150-yard shot. All right, 62 miles per hour. Seems like my club's a little juiced. That's an awful long way for 62 miles per hour. The face was only open 1.8, still on plane, 181 total. Tempo about the same, and that one was right on the center. So real good hit. All right, so now let me demonstrate a bad hit. I'm going to come through with the face pretty closed and see what kind of result we get with that. Same kind of easy swing, but face closed, just to demonstrate that the OptiShot does indeed pick that up. All right. Inside out swing path. The face was closed 11.5 degrees, only 53 miles per hour, easy peasy swing. All right, so let me do the opposite. Let me come through with the face open, see if the Opti picks that up. All right, there's a curve to the right, ball goes to the right. 55 miles per hour, open 14 degrees. Swing was nice and through the middle. 157 yards. Tempo again, very consistent, 1.1, and the contact was right on the center. And then on the bottom here, you can kind of see an image. It's not so clear when you have a wooden club in your hand, but you can see the face is open and when it hits the golf ball. All right, so let me go ahead and take what I call my shoulder high swing, the swing I would use on the golf course when I'm driving. Nothing very athletic, nothing really fast. Yeah, that seems a little juice, 235 yards. For me, that's a bit much. Okay, now there is a way to adjust that number. If I go into the settings for this club, edit. All right, so this is my driver. It's a 1 wood. The shaft length is 45. You can change all these numbers. Average distance, 200. That's what my caddy is going to pull this club for, 200 yards or more. The loft is 18, so I've got quite a loft on my driver here. You can change that number to whatever your driver happens to be. And then there's 2 important numbers down here. The speed adjust. Okay, that's used to get the OptiShot to get your club head speed to reflect the real world, because each computer has a different processor in it that works at different speeds, and this number must be adjusted in order to get your club head speed right. And then the distance adjust right now is at 95% of 100. Well, I can see that's too high for me. I'm getting 220, so I'm going to make that 90% and go ahead and save that. Say OK, and then go back to the driving range. All right, so that was 83 miles per hour for 235. Wide open face on that one. Okay, now my distance is down to 220 for 83 miles per hour. All right, so that number, changing it, did make a difference. All right, let me try to hit one without a wide open face. That's much better. Okay, 230, still, that's a bit much. 230 for 84. Let me go adjust that number again. Make that 85%. In my next video, I'm going to talk all about how to calibrate a golf club to make this OptiShot work exactly like what you would expect to see on a golf course. All right, so I'm going to go for right down the middle again. Okay, that felt pretty good. Looks pretty good. All right, that one's only 210 yards of carry for 80 miles per hour. Face was almost 0 degrees, but it was closed just a little bit. Path was on plane, 212. Tempo, again, 1.1. And I hit it right on the center. All right, so let me try one more. That one, I think I was a little bit of a heel hit. Let's see if the Opti picks it up. 220 carry, that's about me. 85 miles per hour on plane, 225. Tempo 1.2. And it said I did a toe hit. All right, let me try and crank one out there now. That's swinging with everything I got. 245. Again, that might be what I might get if I got a little wind at my back. 96 miles per hour is about as fast as I can swing a golf club, so I'm not too upset about that number. Open, only 3 degrees, but because the swing was much faster, the error was a lot more. On plane, 248, again, tempo same, 1.1, a nice center hit. So all in all, not bad. So now if you go down to the left-hand corner of the screen, and we look at the statistics here, down on the bottom, all right, for this session, I've hit three really good shots inside the white zone, 30%. Another 20% were within 30 yards, and then 30% were at 45 yards, and then the really ugly ones, that red color, I can hardly see it, but it does say 2, so 20% of my shots were really bad. And then it's kind of reflected in these bars here also. You could see the percentage of whites compared to the percentage of greens to yellows to reds, like that. All right. So that's driving on the OptiShot. I'm breathing hard from all this work and swing, so you can definitely tell you'll get your exercise doing this. And also, you learn a couple things about your golf swing. You can build club head speed with this. You can learn to control your face angle with this. You can learn to control your path with this. You can also work on that tempo if that's something that interests you. And for me, what I like to concentrate on here is that face contact. I want to see myself hitting this ball in the middle. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you come back for the next one where I explain how to calibrate one of these golf clubs for use on the OptiShot. And then after that, I'm going to do a video on putting on the OptiShot, because it's my belief that the OptiShot is the best putting simulator out there. I've used a TrackMan, okay, it's expensive. The OptiShot, $300, better than TrackMan.